Okay, hi there. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming on. Oh, shit. Let me actually start it over, guys. Uh, do I need to start it over? I don't think I need to start it over. I'm just going to do a flow to make a new stream. And what this flow and this stream will talk about is having another new understanding of seeing how we're living through the spillage of the chaos of the gods, esoterically or whatever, and the cat has been out of the bag. So let me repeat that and let me have my own Zen frequency of harmony. And that Zen frequency of harmony, working towards something, cleaning house, whatever. The cat has been out of the bag in my personal channel, most respectively, since 2022. So, this astrology scheme, quote unquote, framework that I'm about to show you, the cat has been out of the bag and working with different predecessors and energies. We're recognizing a different channel of a natural open source while there's an artificial anti-open source, an artificial non-open source, and those quote-unquote industries could seem to clash and have its entirely different mental war and surface war. So I'm not concerned about that particular context of a war because if we're rooted and balanced with the natural open source that has its own channel of existence, and the artificial channels in their own fragments and departments and whatever new expressions, they respond however they will. That's on them and their segregated channel of artificial wholeness. Because the main difference of reality is there's a artificial wholeness and then there's a spiritual wholeness, most respectively. So we're getting caught in between those lines, and we're on an esoteric mental level. We could be losing the war esoteric mentally, geochemically, because different programs upon programs of departments and industries in the artificial world, we're subscribing and working with that old guard. That old guard has got us influenced over time, because time is the thing that's ruling this shit, and the time is giving you more density from the planets themselves and their karmas themselves, and them having their own functions for them to take you and vote that council voting for them for where you to go, right? So this is advanced, natural human design, my own personal ironic open source thing, right? The natural open source, respectively, is working towards the anti-detrimental artificial industry that causes detrimental unnecessary suffering. Shout out to the Underground 2018 stream, right? So I'm about to show you two charts so I could ground this into a different mental reality. And this is just a rough draft of it. So I'm about to show you two charts. And as I show you two charts, I already explained the main difference of the last point of introducing the idea of the artificial wholeness and how we have our own weird soul to contract inside the matrix contract, and we're already more or less giddied up, more or less, right? Because for you to sign a contract and be embedded into a contract and for that to be undone, that takes the fates to do that, right? And for me to effortlessly, naturally say that, that is the leading edge number one intelligence, because I'm saying the nitty gritty of, life contracts that we have gotten ourselves, that life contract being an esoteric container for us to fucking make the essence shape of our time, and time being the main boss, right? The quote unquote one of the final boss. And obviously all the planets have their own time of contract and non-contract of just their own fate influence differently upon this planet. So I'm going to show you two charts, and as I show you this two charts, this is just a working of a different project that has been quote unquote introduced in 2022 in this style, in this particular framework. And the cat's out of the bag. And since the cat's out of the bag, we're seeing how the chaos could be in sometime in between the artificial wholeness and the spiritual wholeness casually, right? and seeing how the chaos could be subjective because we're still working, and it could be even, and it could be heightened, it could be extremified, original open source, right? The chaos, because we're working within the artificial matrix, right? So since we're working with the artificial matrix, there's a unique blend of chaos within that artificial matrix, and it only takes spiritual predecessors for us to balance that stuff. So this is a different energy of neutral, that is a different energy on the earth, that is not just subject to the humans even. So there's a different energy on the earth that is influencing the humans, and the humans are like, obviously they're their own respective, in the advanced astrology perspective, they're their own product respectively, neutrally saying that, right? So within saying all of that, I'm going to show you two charts of this intuitive astrological human design read, whatever, not going to get too heady with the titles, right? Because then we could bounce back to natural open source. And the reason to contemplate and remember and recognize natural open source is because that's the thing that is the original spiritual forthcoming energy of nourishment, nurturing, and sustenance, low-key, neutrally, that goes even beyond the metaphorical, the metaphorical neutral fiction, quote unquote, energies of whatever industry you're dabbling with, and how your industry has its own compartments of anchoring and grounding as well. So I'll show you two charts to get back on track, to not be, I understand my empathy of mental empathy, understands people's confusion, understands people's discomfort, understands people's calamity, quote unquote, understands people's unsettling energies, understands people's nervous energies, and that's not necessarily always our own. We could take on someone else's energy, and it's up to a real grounded spiritual person, quote unquote, respectively, to transform that shit, right? So we're going, even at some point in 2985 or whatever the F, we're going beyond, like, you could go beyond even the planets, right? So there's a lot of subjective work, and there's a lot of nitty gritty work that needs to be done. And I'm not trying to rush this or anything. I'm just this is a raw draft because I've done this framework before. I'm going to do the framework differently around, the spring equinox or whatever, or the spring solstice, whatever it's called. And then I'll do it more in a more advanced level, right? Because at the end of it all, this is like, we're trying to be advanced with the quote unquote logic or not. So in a different channel, this is beyond all the hype again, because I'm taking you directly to a different type of substance of the energies that we've been working from 2012 to 2022, and in that own respective decade. And then in 2032, from 2012, that will be 2 decades after a different pivotal shift, because in 2012, we received a different collective frequency on the Mayan level. And that Mayan switch, you don't have to attribute it to one planet, even though one planet could be nurturing the positive energies of it. And that positive energy of frequency from the quote unquote the Mayan spill, and how the Mayans have a unique connection to like the dream world, right? And the earth, right? And then everyone feeling that energy in a different, released channel, where it's not just, compartmentalized artificial humans or around that ballpark. It's a human that's shedding off of the artificial stuff, but recognizing artificial stuff, paper take it, save, question mark, save, service. So yes, we're working and within this, with it, and you can make this a ticket, and it doesn't have to be your traditional ticket. So this traditional ticket is staying in, going within the times, the flow of the times, seeing how there's times to slow down, and obviously being safe, and seeing when there's a time to quote unquote accelerate with the energies. And if it's your choice to slow down, that's your own quote unquote nature, right? So getting back to the other point is saying, because I saw a comment and it kind of slightly threw me off, but going back to the point is, I'm going to show you 2 charts here. And 2012, that energy of a quote unquote a context of an energy leak, 20 years from that time, time and energy and however, the math kind of self organizes itself in 2032, then we could really start to see the work that has been done since 2012, right? And since 2012, that energy has what it was the riding wave for 2022 to be what it is. 2022, us receiving a different type of frequency environment of energies, of workings of different type of energies that have been in the planet Earth that affect positive mental influence, positive natural influence, etc. And now from 2022 to 2026, having our own recollective, subjective working with the natural energies of a different natural sovereign channel, remembering, understanding a different natural open source sovereign channel, so we could alleviate detrimental distorted energies and work towards some type of energetic sovereignty for real, and having a different subjective work thereof. So we're seeing the culmination of things. We're seeing the I'm going to reveal the two charts right now. And then around March, I guess, around, right around the spring solstice or equinox or any of that, I'm going to retouch up that chart. And I'm going to show you the chart right now. And I'm going to retouch up that chart. And I'll do it in a more precise way as I've done in the past astrological structured, quote unquote, rigid readings. So I'm going to show you the chart right now. I'm going to explain to you what it means. And as I explain to you the chart and what it means, we could just see what things are, right? So now I'm going to show you the chart, right? So within this fluid astrology reading, and why am I going to do this open source? Because in 2022, energetically, neutrally saying it, the cat's already been out of the bag, and it's up to me to have a balanced connection with natural open source so it could be a thing, right? So we're making it a thing so we could work for our ironic sovereignty for what in the pain of it you're complaining about, and all the individual inner fuss is about you wanting to be quote unquote some type of freeness, right? So being careful with the etymology too. Thank you to the predecessors, right? So now I'm going to show you this chart. So this is a word. So this is beyond all of the hype for the second time, trying to reiterate it, iteralize it, right? So as I try to reiteralize it, original open source, we could effortlessly pick any country: Switzerland, China, Greenland, Italy, astrology, just hypothetically speaking, somewhere in Africa, Sudan, somewhere in just the Europe or any country, right? And you could see effortlessly what could be of an artificial, detrimental, outdated system or not. What do I mean by that? Artificial, detrimental, outdated system. 3 quote unquote negatives make some type of esoteric energetic density, right? So artificial, detrimental, distorted wholeness in the tech. Aside from that energy, artificial, detrimental, outdated, excuse me, I'm correcting the insight. As I correct the insight, there's a wholeness of life that is beyond the tech, but that wholeness of life recognizes that tech, and that tech industry could be primarily classified as artificial. How it's used could be detrimental, and that detrimental could be outdated. 3 negatives, right? So that makes some type of quote unquote negative density. So if we focus on the positive 3, a different 3 beyond 2985, esoteric, scientifically beyond 2035 India, because it's the essence of the foundation of the positive support of energies. So this is effortlessly beyond 2035 India, if you could read the paint bit, because it's influencing their original positive grand change solution of saying you could see any country and how they could fall to some percentage in their geography, how they could fall in the geographical mental charting of you know the how to some percentage degree their tech usage is artificial, detrimental, outdated, or is it natural, supportive, nurturing? Is it natural, nurturing, non-outdated? Positive 3. So if we're focusing on positive 3, shout out to all the Chaitanya in India. Effortless. Look, we can make India the #1 harmonic autonomous country if we have the balanced intelligence, Modi. So stop having a cognitive dissonance respectively of the solution while that's the #1 thing to fight for. If you want to have that cognitive dissonance, that's your mental standard energetic cause and effect karma of how you want to downplay and have a cognitive dissonance to the solution, perhaps. And seeing how that is just its own flabbergastingness of like you could be ironically, metaphorically, just a cat chasing its tail, because the solution has been here since 2012 to 2022. And if you have some type of cognitive dissonance, then the artificial detrimental realm got the best of you. But in the paint and the background esoteric channel, Modi, with or without Modi, the original balanced predecessors of God, you know, you could say fucking Narayana Vaikuntha, that energy stream has India's positive back. How? Because we're working with that stream of the support of the intelligence, the knowledge, the positive consciousness, and the balance of the intelligence and the consciousness for there to have some type of leaning support in India. So on a neutral field, we could work with the balanced intelligence, and within the balanced intelligence of the sovereign earth, India can be the #1 harmonic autonomous country, because the intelligence is giving them that the predecessors of India beyond India are giving, and the energy streams of intelligence and consciousness beyond India, but somehow India being, I guess, some type of energetic direct descendant respectively of the energetic predecessors, India could be the #1 harmonic autonomous country because the balanced gods are with them. And with the balanced gods, as they work through the balanced beings, as the balanced gods work through the balanced beings, we could see the balanced beings, see the balanced intelligence, and you guys knocked out of the balanced intelligence because you have your own subjective cognitive dissonance, perhaps to some degree, right, Modi? So we could see all the Chaitanya centers in India. We could tell them we have the intelligence for harmonic autonomy or whatever. And as we have the harmonic autonomy, now we could approach balance to see the balanced intellect and how we could all quote unquote share this, 3 quote unquotes, because obviously it's a sticky artificial world, original open source. So we could quote unquote share this with the world for the natural open source that ironically is the solution to the detrimental counter nature, quote unquote, just in the paint of the outdated system, the different types of industries of systems of quote unquote copy. So this is a natural open source, and seeing any country and seeing how any country could ironically choose natural open source or not. So that's the final decisive factor. So that's how I'm effortlessly beyond 2035, because I'm streaming the solution that the seeds could be on that foundation. So the positive supportive balance could keep being a thing. So that's how I'm effortlessly beyond 2035 India. But like we have to, I have to be like, I have to have some type of humility, right? Road life, right? Rade, whatever the imbalance. So rade, imbalance, rad, bro, rad. Yeah. It's like rad life, whatever. Yeah. So it's like, you know, the rad life, that polarities of the ancient early Narayana mix, and then, you know, the Brahma mix, those industries will do its thing forever. And how they change on the Saturn pain of it, we just got to like surrender at the end of the day and kind of let go. But like I'm giving this the balanced predecessors are working through my balanced stream of my balanced self to communicate to the balanced collective of Earth, to communicate to the balanced India, to communicate to the balanced foundation of India. And that balanced foundation of India, quote unquote, quote unquote, quote unquote, is the Chaitanya centers. And those Chaitanya centers, they can uphold a different type of balance if they all work in harmony with cutting edge, quote unquote, tech and AI, right? So obviously different fields, different industries, different palettes, original open source in India, that India is not only AI, it's also a bunch of other things, right? Agriculture, commerce, nature, Ayurveda, communication, on the surface level front of all the planets, right? And all the war shit, right? So what I'm about to say is like, since I already did this in 2022 and the cat's already out of the bag, it's up to me to follow up on a different type of natural open source field that could balance itself with the surface level copyright artificial field, perhaps. So there's a big humility surrender here because the cat's been out of the bag within this time that we're in. And we're not all subjectively on that mental train or energetic train to work with that. So we're behind in our artificial chaos karma, and now we could have detriment on the planet, right? So this is a mental psyche war, right? So within this psyche war, and that's collective psyche war, that's just what it is within the natural open source. It's up to the balanced sovereign of that energy to recognize the surface level detriment artificial realm and the solution opposite of that, and ironically what's bringing that, so we could transcend AI effortlessly by seeing a different natural cosmic energy and seeing how some countries could be anti-nature for whatever reason, not good, not bad, just it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And some countries could be just artificial intelligence without nature, right? So this has been like 2022 to 2012, natural open source, ironically. So kind of like seeing the different balances of the three and kind of like working with that. And if you're behind in that, the surface level operation mechanics of, Mercury and Saturn, they'll do their thing, right? But it's a working, like we're understanding newly the working operations of the matrix. So now what I'm about to do is I'm about to show you the chart. I've done this framework in the past, and I'm gonna show you in 5 seconds. Let me close the doors. Okay, now I'm just going to show you the chart and then as I show you the chart, I might just show you one of 2 pages, but as I show you the chart, I'll talk and explain what the chart means as I show you it, and you won't see my face for the next who knows how long, but I'm just going to explain the chart. So here we go. So this framework is called Negentropic Human Design, founded in year 2022 when I was in North California. And when I was in North California, I was just experimenting with astrology in a very unique way. And my handwriting changes, of course. But what we have here is saying we're going to work with the earnest energies first. Why should we work with the earnest energies first? It's a different type of upgrade, pro-species, and spiritual energy. So the pro-species energy, and okay, here's the main point of earnest right here. Unorthodox, odd energies seemingly unorthodox, odd energies that are foreign, that we have buried in a not good, not bad way, a not taboo way. It's an unorthodox spiritual energy of nourishment that sees through the industries in balance. And Ernest could bounce around and be prominent in different constellations. And within the bigger picture, New Guard is a ruling planet of the new age. So however the original galaxy will fix that. Because obviously people will say, you know, Saturn's the ruler of Aquarius. That's a micro fragment, detrimental, old guard, contracted influence, old guard, you know, kind of like, you know, old, like satanic slave guard influenced perspective of ironic micro fragmented influence, because it's a bigger picture, and that energy would want you to think that, because that energy will confuse you towards the dark matrix. So really, if you're saying Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius, you really have quote unquote like a slave mindset, because you're catered to that energy of seeing, of kind of just being anti-sovereign while using sovereign energies. And you're kind of like esoterically, you're kind of just kind of like have like a confused psychosis, because for all of the solution energy from the bigger picture to be given from Ernest to the bigger picture and to influence the Aquarian age, and for you to downplay that, that is a detrimental Saturn mindset to say, to just have like a confused bias. So, but anywho, then after Ernest is Mars, is whose war are you in? Why is this happening? Collective chaos, going straight to the problem. So we're starting with Ernest, then Mars. So this is a natural open source thing. And and this was even hot in 2024 January, because I was working at a grocery store in San Francisco. And as I was working at a grocery store in San Francisco, someone had already made it a natural open source app from my stuff. And I was like, okay, I surrendered mentally. I was like, okay, that's my fault. That's my influence. I'll let the nature do its thing, right? Because the predecessors put me on game. I should just be grateful that the predecessors put me on game. But Ernest is a prominent, energetic, bigger picture, prominent energy of the Aquarius energies in so many different perspectives. And if you think it's Saturn in Aquarius, your artificial industry biased self is giving you that mental influence to have that cognitive dissonant bias. So Ernest is bringing the pure balanced enlightenment. Then we're going to Mars straight, like, what is this shit? What's going on for you? We're cutting the fluff in all of this thing. Everything we're talking about, we're cutting the fluff and we're going straight to it. After the Mars stuff, we're biting the bullet. We're swallowing the dark pill of reality of how you could be entrapped in prison, got the short end of the stick, living out karmic cycles, doing time. Saturn. So Ernest, some type of sovereign energy. Mars, your shit, not you fighting for someone else. After Mars, Saturn, going to the dark, gritty matrix paint of all of your time karma, even your family, your ancestors, ancestral karma in Saturn. After Saturn karma, Lilith, mother of monsters. After we're in the Saturn, so this is the best astrological reading of the century. It's because I'm going straight to the quote unquote the juice and the substance, to put it in my own fresh perspective. So I'm going straight to the juice and the substance of the esoteric solution. So this is the juice and the substance of the esoteric solution in natural open source. We're going straight to what the heck is this? Natural, familiar, unfamiliar energy that's positive, earnest. What the fuck is the hype of all this collective chaos? Why am I doing it? Mars. What's okay, all of this strife and strafe and the time karma, Saturn. Okay, after Saturn, what's really going on in the paint of the dark sci-fi fantasy, the deep sea fantasy, the deep sea, now we're on the boats from Monterey to fucking, wherever, quote unquote, quote unquote, quote unquote. After Monterey, I mean after Mother of Monsters Monterey, excuse me. After Lilith is Jupiter. Now we're going professional within the spiritual thing, and a bunch of spiritual karma could be instantaneous. And now we're at the games and the races, right? So this is the best astrology reading of the century because I'm planting the seeds for solutions in the fertile foundation of the esoteric stuff that's beyond the field of AI, that's giving the positive influence to have a distinction in India of what is of natural, not AI, and what is of balanced, positive AI in India. So India could be the #1 harmonic autonomous country because effortlessly the intelligence stream could be given directly to the Chaitanya centers, quote unquote, and within that they could have the new balanced intelligence of how we're recognizing there's correlations to the planets and the Indian gods, original open source, #1 intelligence of the century and beyond. And then after Lilith is Jupiter, then we're going straight to the fucking race, right? And that race, we're gonna test our mind. We're gonna go straight, even past. If we go Lilith and Jupiter, and then we put Neptune on the side, Neptune's there in a micro fashion. And then we're polishing our Jupiter before the Neptune. Then the Neptune is the surmounting industry. So we got Uranus, Mars, and on March, 19th ish, etc. I'm gonna do, and there's a second chart I'm not gonna show, but on March 19th, etc. I'm gonna do it in a different fashion. I'm gonna say what planet is in what constellation particularly, and then in what phase it is in within the quote unquote the gate of changes, right, from the natural open source 2022. So if I see anybody doing it, cool, whatever. I'm my own sovereign stream. That is the essence of the solution field that you're taking from, quote unquote, neutral metaphor Moloch 3. Neutral metaphor Moloch 3 is the surface level industry of change, etc., right? So after Saturn, so from the Saturn to Lilith, this is the hardest bridge of consciousness ever, because if we're going to Saturn, this is your karmic time. You're here for some time. This is where your mental focus has chosen the commitment. After that commitment, now you're gonna have the mother monster's karma, and she's gonna. You might not like what she has to say because this is her stuff. So this is where everyone's complaining really is at. This is where all the energetic, esoteric moaning and groaning is at. It's between 8 and 10. It's between Saturn and Lilith. This is their, quote unquote, some fragment of the bigger picture. This is their surface level industry. And this is where all the esoteric moaning and groaning is with everybody, humanistically. And then after we deal within that, this is the best ordering it could be in, right? Because Uranus is the sovereignty of it. Mars is what's your stuff. Saturn, this is where you're at. Lilith is, okay, let's get to the dark karma. And then after Lilith, after that deep challenge, we could see where we're at in our Jupiter, which is spiritual races. And then after the spiritual races, then we could know how one of the top spiritual gods feels, and how he's using the moon energies to God's current, the fire of the gods, GodFire, astrology, GodFire, current of the gods. How are they using the moon, and what are we and the moon also is like on the second chart, it says there's a bunch of there's like 5 different bullet points of the moon on the second chart that I'm not going to say out loud, but I'll say one of the 5, and it's okay, so so the moon is pretty deep. Cancer, does that say Cancer? Oh, okay. So it's like it's kind of like what how are we being fair with the workings of the energy or not? And what are we doing within the workings of the energies? So the moon, on the March 19th, I'll read more of the moon just to put that special episode out there, right? So now Jupiter should tell us how to feel, how we spiritually conform to the Olympics, metaphorically, right? So after the Lilith, after the dark karma, so this is the best astrology. This is number one of the century, no cap, because I've ordered it in such a original predecessor way, natural open source. The last final solution to uphold the natural open source is to represent and exemplify it, if I use that word correctly, and to see how we could fix our own personal stuff amidst chaos that's not even ours. Ernest Mars, collective chaos, not your war energy, but war energy. And then Saturn, that dense cyclical duality, polarity of just going towards the surface level energies of quote unquote surface level death and life. We're committed to have some type of matrix roll through that, whatever that is, however that changes, however the Saturn grounds you to change your Saturn destiny more or less, and how that reshapes or not, right? And how we could use primarily a subtle sovereign energy of spiritual origins, even spiritual innovation, even is that earnest energy, that Mars energy, and that surface level, matrix dark arena of it. The Saturn being the matrix operations of the surface self. Then the Lilith is to the nitty gritty of, going to the heights of the industries, right? Your own subjective heights, being sovereign of the dark industry, more or less, but or having some type of unique contract from the dark industry. That's where all the quote unquote esoteric moaning and groaning is at. It's between Saturn and Lilith. After Lilith, we could talk about Lilith. Lilith is in Sag right now. So since Lilith is in Sag, our dark feminine self, the collective dark feminine self, or just that kind of like that wholeness of the feminine, and how that feminine has its own nature of warring or even trying to protect itself and have a solution. That feminine wholeness, that's not necessarily human, but it could be. That feminine wholeness is in Sag. So the feminine wholeness, it's influencing the Sagittarius energy to be kind of like, to run your own shit, right? Sag is like, be about your own, I guess, craft, right? Or be about your own, like, original, like, I guess, magic or whatever, right? Or just be about your own, like, kind of like, reshape the transformation of, spiritual circumstances, right? So that's mutable fire, reshaping spiritual circumstances, being mutable and readaptable to shape the spiritual circumstances, and that's being influenced, and Lilith is influencing that. So we're having the influence to look at everything in a dark maw type of way. So on some esoteric cachet, original open source, etc., whatever it is saying, this is that Ma energy fleeting, part fleet, right? Original open source. So after that Lilith being in Sagittarius, it's like kind of like, these are like the top gods are really like in how they have their own spiritual pinnacle. That spiritual pinnacle is ricocheting from somewhere of like a quote unquote 12 dimension thing, quote unquote. And that's just kind of being influenced in the collective Sag energy and the collective Jupiter energy. So that collective Olympic energy, the Olympics are getting quite transformative and drastic because Lilith is having her own influence in Sag, and she's lighting up the Sag constellation with her Lilith energy. So Lilith being there, she's going to protrude that energy, and we're just going to feel her energy So this is spiritual karma. So Lilith is spiritual karma. If we could get through our spiritual karma, then we could be ready to have some type of spiritual embodiment. Because I think Jupiter and Sag, it's also spiritual embodiment, and it's physical challenges, right? It's Jupiter and Saturn, they could have unique oppositions, right? And when they have unique oppositions, it's kind of like fighting yourself, fighting through the wilderness, right? Because the matrix could be wild, right? And Jupiter wants to be his own thing entirely, right? So could be like cutting through the wilderness. So Jupiter's in Cancer right now, cutting through the wilderness, influencing the Cancer energies, being about your sovereign moon energies, and seeing the polarity and duality of industries, and seeing how the moon could just have a unique context of invertedness, not good, not bad from the original galactic bigger picture perspective. And then the moon could have different positive balanced energetic exchanges, original open source. So after Jupiter and the moon, and I'll come back on March 19th, then we go to South Node, the South Node mechanism of the moon having its own moon karma, the moon karma collecting how you reacted, and how you reacted is like maybe you could have reacted out of pocket or partially, and that partial out of pocket energy, the South Node remembers that it will drag you back to complete stuff you didn't finish. North Node will take you to the things that your collective interest will go to, what you need to finish, what focus on one thing, what are you working on, within just how you could like kind of progress and streamline your sovereign moon energies, and seeing the inverted moon industries, and having a positive moon balance to go to revisit South Node and North Node, and to see the positive moon balance of how you go to North Node, and seeing how the North Node could be influenced by Ernest to South Node, all of that, this whole circle right here, original open source. How we're going to the North Node is how are we balancing the polarities of the planets, how are they natural, how are they artificial, and how we're ultimately having sovereign moon energies to deposit in the North Node, or how there's detrimental, fragmented, quote unquote, distorted moon industry energies that are going to the North Node, and seeing the direct, precise polarity within the North Node, within the industries, beyond all of the quote unquote Texas Tech AI hype, neutrally saying that, and just generally saying that, right? Because the North Node is bringing, it's kind of rounding out and calculating how we're using the moon energies, and every mechanism of the planets having its own up and down, right? So the up of the North Node energetically, esoterically, is how we're using the moon energies positively and balanced or not. So after we get done with the North Node energies, reveal what's hidden, reveal your reveal like your path of like your quote unquote, everything, right? In its own human reemergence, and just seeing kind of the new creation of that, right? And then Sun being in Pisces is the conclusion of the feminine admin cadmin body, and we're at the feet of Lilith in a different context. Sun in Pisces, the 12th house, Lilith being, all the constellations in a different perspective, and now the Sun is at the feet. So we're seeing the final foundation of Lilith, and the dark karma of collective reality, and how everything is quote unquote spiritually perfect. There are no mistakes. This is the Matrix Mechanics 2012, beyond the planet Earth 2032 effortlessly, right? So I could just say hey to your country and just be like, hey, balance, right? Or not. And how you guys want to fucking recognize the solution or not, y'all could do that or not, right? So I could say effortlessly within my own timing of nature and not nature, I could, email some y'all, right? I could, and I tried in 2019, I did the email campaign, right? Was missing a piece or something like that, right? So I get the whole fucking tech stream thing, right? But for us to transcend that, we have to see a different field of nature that's beyond that. So that's why you could say like, you could say to like what do you call that? You could say to some type of balanced country, quote unquote, like how are you how like how could we take some detrimental chaos off of your shoulders? Pause through this video. So let me write that down. How can we, and this is 2022 natural open source. So now the question is, after the sun, after the revealance in a balanced order, how could we take some of the detrimental chaos off your shoulders intellectually, mind you? So I'm writing that down. So wow. So the sun do what the sun do. March 19th, I'll come back. This is the raw version of this. And then in March 19th-ish, then I'm going to be like, okay, here's different quote unquote details. I might put that private. I might not put that private. You already know how these things go. And obviously, I've already did the podcast phase in 2019 underground prominently, right? So kudos, if you're into the podcast thing within the last couple years, great. Hope it works out for you. But like, I'm like, for advanced intelligence is saying this is my sovereign stream, and if your AI can't understand that, it's you're self-redundant within your hype, because you're saying it's the most intelligent when it's not. So therefore your AI gets, there's a check mark of it's not the number one at that, and it tallies up to not be the best. So that's why in some probability of 95%, your AI could not be the number one AI for the millionth time. So Modi, what percentage level of cognitive distance do you have in Planet Earth 2026? If you could soberly effing answer that. If not, okay. So in this balanced perspective, after the sun, reveal what's hidden. I'll come back March 19th, talk about the sun. It's the character is winding down and it's having its own mirror descension. And as the mirror of spirit descends, the physical ascends. So Pisces is the paradoxical climax of the physical ascension, right? Because everything's backwards, right? It's something like it's just some type of quote unquote spiritual X. Jupiter and Neptune are in the paint, and Uranus has its own unique revolvement around Pisces and its own unique Uranus context field. So after the sun, I'll talk about the sun even more. Sun in Pisces it's the paradox coming to a conclusion. And now the paradox is going to reset. And now the spirit is going to come from the bottom in Aries, because everything's backwards. So the spirit energies in one context start from Aries. And the sun also symbolizes Aries too. So in Pisces, the sun in Pisces, it's the spiritual energies are starting and ending at the same time. So there's some fusion climax energy. After the sun in balanced order, then we could just have a neutral kind of, just kind of a cleaning thing. After the neutral cleaning thing, then we could just see the Earth collective and how we all get our 1-2 and how we get all our needs, right? 5, Mercury, Ernest got our back on a different level. More balanced intuition, institutions with different balanced intellect being mastered and refined in secret quote unquote organizations. Not good, not bad, neutrally saying that. And now we're in a new bigger picture perspective. Mercury, after Mercury, 6, the lovely phase or the pairing phase or a different type of advanced industry, slightly, a different type of love industry, a different type of like, quote unquote, even gold industry. Venus, exalted and privileged slightly above Mercury, the Venus industry. And on the second chart right here, Venus is in Aries. So Venus is also influencing, or Aries could be influencing the Venus in a different paradox cyclical astrological field. Is we're seeing Venus influence spiritual beginnings, right? And that spiritual beginning hype, we can't detrimentalize that entirely, but we're just all gonna have our own vibe and our own bliss, right? And how Venus can organize that from a different earnest sovereign perspective to Mars and Saturn, and then Lilith, because that's kind of like the crux of the spiritual foundational energies, then we could have a stronger foundation to go into the Venus stuff and have a maturity to see where our balanced love life is after the field stream of balanced institutions and surface level law, Mercury. So surface level law is Mercury. After we get right with our maturity and we could be mature and trusted, quote unquote, that's subjective. Then we could go into, the love phase. After the love phase, now we can, and when we're in our own settled phase and comfort phase, then we could see the change of the industries, the Neptune industries, and how there's a whole roundabout of material energies, and how the offsprings of the Neptune and Venus energies, starting from the Neptune, then we could see where we're at in the changing chaotic industries in the Saturn contract. So then from the Neptune to the Saturn, original open source, then we could see where is our subjective, fit at? Where is our subjective esoteric, we're throwing a fit because the collective karmas. And can we find the solution for the esoteric moan groaning collectively and individually or not? So from the collective roundabout industries, the material collective roundabout industries, where we have to work up to balance ourselves with that or not. And the foundation is the Uranus, the Mars, and the Saturn, because this is the sovereign battle right here. And then the sovereign battle, you get that spiritual, maturity badge. And then you could see how the moons should be dealt with beyond New York and Maine, because I'm from the future, 2095. And then after the Neptune industries, then we could see the collective chaos of the inverted Chiron collective, the damaged handicap energies that are in the female hospitality energy industry field and masculine as well, and just seeing how the collective war of spirituality and non-spirituality has done its thing of chaos, not good, not bad, hard matrix mechanics of deep Uranus, Mars, and Saturn. And then after the 12 is the artificial wholeness. Now, why is 13 the artificial wholeness? Because we're seeing the general planets partaking in the surface level matrix, the general standard planets, and we're seeing, the surface level push of the tech field, of how that has tallied up just to be quote unquote 13, right? And then, so that's an esoteric quote unquote 13, and the 13 is artificial wholeness. It's the artificial reality that, and the 13 could also mean different things, but the feminine, the feminine matrix goddesses, they're influencing that 13 to be what that is, right? So the 13, it's that collection. It's just a Jupiter standing on a unique, matrix pillar or matrix platform, right? Because it's a 3 and a 10, right? So it's a transcended Jupiter on the collective of all of the matrix hype, beyond all of your matrix hype, beyond all of your cognitive dissonant, distorted mental energies, beyond India 2032, as I've already explained. And now all that's left to do is measure the cognitive dissonance, and how Modi could be anti-solution, neutrally, energetically, and metaphysically saying that you have the best life ever. I'll come back with the part 2. I didn't show the chart number 2, but I'll read the chart number 2. Uranus is in Taurus, Gemini energies, so he's at the cusp. So that spiritual sovereign energy, he's gonna be in that second, third house energy. So he's gonna be in the paint of the there's gonna be a hard wiring of spiritual sovereign energies. And from that different epicenter access perplexive nexus, original open source, we could have our own subjective reaction to that. And that subjective reaction, the South Node is going to record that. So it's good to have, so this is like a cheat code, right? So if we respond not in a distorted, disgusted, like just hateful, bashful way, We don't have to respond like that energetically. If we respond in a balanced way, that's how the balanced energies could be shared, right? So earnest is being graceful, and it's plugging into the surface level 13 matrix, because all the constellations are 13, right? 12 constellations in 13, or the surface level things, the surface level objects in the artificial collection, 13. So this is a certain context of 13. So y'all could downplay the earnest energies all you want, and you could look at the earnest energies as weird and unfamiliar, but you don't have to, because it's supportive, unorthodox energy that's spiritually, energetically origin based. So if you want, you could be subjective and you could react however you want, but that's what it is. Mars is in Pisces with the sun. So North Node, Sun, Mercury, we got some Neptune in the cusp of it. Saturn and Mars, we got a major conjunction in Pisces right now. Cancers and Jupiter, and then the Scorpio, energetically, we could use on the 2022 compensation astrology, we could use the Scorpio energy and balance to create a grand water trine, a grand water trine, to just kind of see, just to kind of be one with the balanced kumbaya bigger picture of cardinal water, the forthcoming of, material sustenance slightly before the earth, the water, the forthcoming of just like the embodiment of where the fire and the air slightly go into the water, and the spirit embodies the new primal material being, right? Because if anybody says I'm like, out of pocket for some distorted reason, I would just be like, well, the primal material of energies needs to be balanced. So that's why I alerted Eminem to be like, what's up, Eminem? There's industry archon gods that have you on check already. And for me to alert you like that for the sole purpose intention, so we could bring the solution, so we could bring you solution, comfort, energy, and alleviate whatever you have, Slim. So do you understand, Marshall, why the intention was of that alertment? And if you don't understand the energy, then what's up? You trying to brutal shit? Like, what's up, bro? I'm on some other balanced shit. Like, what's up, Eminem? I'm right here, motherfucker. Like, what's good with you, bro? That type of shit, right? So the grand water trine of Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio is there. So holla at that compensation astrology grand trine astrology, and good luck on your course, right? Good luck on your course type of shit. And your AI could learn from me all you want, and you could be in the distorted polarity of that shit all you want. And I'm just gonna fucking, and still my intelligence stats are the best of the century. And Modi could be cognitive dissonant with that if he wants. I don't give a fuck, but I appreciate you if you're not cognitive dissonance. So the Scorpio energies could bring forth recognizing these harsh Pisces energies, because there's harsh energies in Pisces, because this conjunction is like we're being pulled all to this Pisces energy, and the Pisces energy has some scars, mental subscars, mental habits from the last 2,000, 6,000 years of the Saturn guard and the Pisces. So this is that final filter filling out of just like, okay, this is kind of weird, but it's kind of not, but it could be. And now there's a lot of influence in the Pisces energy. So now we're just feeling the last 2,000 to 6,000 years. Jupiter being in Cancer is like, don't act out of pocket. But you can be fucking sly and malevolent in just an out-of-pocket way. But Jupiter sees that, and hopefully we have the Jupiter energy to fucking balance that. And then the grand water trine to just be more appropriate with Jupiter is seeing the Scorpio energy, 5%, seeing the Scorpio energy to influence positive water change, or maybe not, you know, or somehow the fate's doing different things with that, right? So I'll come back with the part 2 on the March 19th. You have the best life ever, brother. Thank you.